Welcome back to Wrestling Impact. I'm your host, and tonight, we are breaking down one of the most talked about moments in recent wrestling history. The night the mysterious masked man finally ripped off that mask on live television right in the middle of Monday Night Raw and sent the entire wrestling world into an absolute meltdown. Buckle up, because this story doesn't start with a reveal, it starts with a shadow. It was about 3 months ago when the first signs appeared. No music, no entrance, no promo, just a figure, standing at the top of the ramp in a jet black mask with a single silver marking across the left eye, almost like a scar, like a symbol. The crowd didn't know whether to cheer or run. The announcers went silent for a second, which, if you've ever watched wrestling, you know is actually terrifying, before scrambling to figure out who this person was. Nobody had answers. Social media exploded that same night. Within 20 minutes, the hashtag MaskedManRaw was trending #1 worldwide. Fan theories were pouring in from every corner of the internet. Some people were convinced it was a returning legend. Others thought it was someone signed from another promotion. A few, and God bless these people, were absolutely certain it was a time traveler. Seriously. Someone wrote a 4,000-word Reddit thread about it. 4,000 words. But here's what made this different from your typical wrestling mystery angle. The masked man didn't just show up and disappear. He stuck around. And every week, he escalated. Week 2, he appeared in the crowd. Just sitting there. Row 3. Center aisle. Watching the main event with his arms crossed, completely still, while everyone around him was going insane. When a cameraman finally zoomed in, he slowly turned his head directly at the lens and said nothing. Just stared. And then the feed cut away. The arena buzzed for the rest of the night. You could feel it. Even the wrestlers in the ring seemed distracted. Week 3? He left something at ringside. A black envelope. Security found it after the show. Management opened it on camera for a special backstage segment. Inside was a single playing card, the King of Spades, and a handwritten note that simply said, "You already know who I am." Oh, the fans lost their minds. What does that mean? Who is it? Is this a warning? A game? By week 4, the locker room was visibly uncomfortable. In a backstage interview, one of the top heels on the roster, a guy who doesn't rattle easily, actually paused mid-sentence, looked over his shoulder at nothing, and just said, "I don't know who this person is, but I don't like how this feels." And that was the whole interview. He just walked away. Even the faces, the good guys, seemed uneasy, because nobody knew if this masked individual was friend or foe. Was he there to save someone? Destroy someone? Take a championship? Start a war? And then, week 5 happened. And everything changed. It was during a championship ladder match. High stakes, brutal, incredible wrestling, the kind of match that reminds you why you fell in love with this sport in the first place. Both competitors were putting their bodies on the line, climbing those ladders, crashing through the ropes, the crowd absolutely deafening. And then dead silence. The masked man walked out. Slowly, deliberately. He didn't run. He didn't sprint. He walked like a man who owned the building. He climbed onto the apron, looked at both competitors, and stepped back down, just to let them know he could. That he was there. That whatever happened in that ring, he was watching. The referee didn't know what to do. Security started to approach. He didn't flinch. He simply pointed at the championship hanging above the ring, looked directly into the hard camera, the one that broadcasts to millions of homes, and walked to the back. No attack. No interference. Just a statement. Management announced the following week that the masked man had been officially added to the roster. Still no name. Still no face. Just a masked superstar with a mysterious agenda and a contract that apparently nobody had seen the details of. The promos started after that. And if the appearances were chilling, the promos were on a completely different level. Imagine standing backstage, lights low, the masked figure in frame, voice slightly altered but not digitally, just naturally deep and measured, like someone who has never been nervous a day in their life. He spoke in references, talked about loyalty being a currency that wrestling had devalued, about how the people on that roster had forgotten where they came from, about how sometimes, the only way to remind people of the truth is to burn the illusion down. Nobody knew who he was talking to, and that was the genius of it. Every superstar on the roster thought he was talking about them. Heels were paranoid. Faces were confused. Tag teams started side-eyeing each other. And the fans were with every single word. Even if they didn't understand it, they felt it. Because good wrestling storytelling doesn't just explain itself, it makes you feel something and lets you fill in the rest. 6 weeks of this. 6 weeks of mystery, of tension, of a roster walking on eggshells. 6 weeks of trending hashtags and YouTube breakdown videos and fan art and merchandise unofficial, obviously, because nobody even knew his name. 6 weeks of the most electric atmosphere Monday Night Raw had produced in a very long time. And then came the night of the reveal. The show opened like any other. Good matches, promos, storyline development. But there was something different in the air. You know that feeling when you're at a live event and something is just about to happen? The crowd could feel it. The building itself seemed to hold its breath. Halfway through the show, his music hit. And I want to be very clear about what happened in that arena when that music hit. People were on their feet before the first note finished. Some people were grabbing their phones. Some people were grabbing the person next to them. A woman in the front row who had been there with her daughter couldn't have been more than 10 years old. The little girl grabbed her mom's arm and said, loud enough for the camera to pick up, "This is the night, Mom. This is the night." And she was right. He walked out slowly, as always. But this time, something was different about the walk. He paused at the top of the ramp longer than usual. He looked out at the crowd, all of them, like he was taking a photograph with his eyes. Like he was memorizing the moment before it changed everything. He got to the ring. He asked for a microphone. And he stood there in silence for a full 30 seconds. 30 seconds of silence in a wrestling arena is an eternity. That crowd, that roaring, stomping, chanting crowd completely still, waiting. And then he spoke. "A year ago, I walked away. Not because I was broken. Not because I was beaten. Because I was invisible. I was right in front of all of you, and nobody saw me. The office didn't see me. The champions didn't see me. The fans." He stopped. He looked down for a moment. "Some of you saw me. And I never forgot that." The crowd started to murmur. Because suddenly, the cadence of the voice, without the filter, without the mystery, in the rawness of that moment, started to sound familiar. "I put on this mask because I wanted to know if what I did inside this ring could stand on its own. Without a name. Without a history. Without what everyone already decided I was. And you know what? It can. You proved it to me. Every week, you showed up. You chanted. You followed a shadow. You believed in something you couldn't even see." He reached up slowly with both hands. The crowd was now starting to piece it together. You could hear individual voices wait, and is that in no way building into a cascade of realization that swept through the building like a wave. "It's time for you to see it." He pulled off the mask. And the arena absolutely detonated. Because standing there, holding a mask in one hand and a microphone in the other, with fire in his eyes and a smile that was equal parts relief and triumph, was a man who had been written off. A man who had been released during one of those brutal roster cuts that broke a lot of hearts. A man who had quietly, without fanfare or announcement, come back and made the entire wrestling world fall in love with him again before they even knew it was him. The pop was unreal. One of those rare, genuine explosions of crowd noise that you can feel in your chest. People were hugging strangers. The little girl in the front row burst into tears, happy tears. Her mom had her hands over her mouth. The commentary team, to their enormous credit, let the moment breathe. They didn't rush to fill the silence. They let the crowd be the soundtrack. Because some moments don't need words. They just need space. He stood in that ring, mask in hand, tears streaming down his face, and he wasn't hiding them. Not even a little bit. He'd spent months being a mystery. Being a symbol. Being something people projected their theories onto. And now, in this moment, he was completely, utterly human. He raised the microphone one more time. "I'm not a mystery anymore. I'm just a wrestler who loves this business more than anything in the world. And I am just getting started." The roof nearly came off the building. What followed was one of the most electric closing segments Raw had produced in recent memory. A current champion came out not to attack, not to challenge, but to stand face to face with the newly revealed superstar, stare him down with a championship belt between them, and nod. Just nod. Like an acknowledgement of what was coming, of the collision that was now inevitable. The crowd filled and everything else. The chants. The noise. The electric anticipation of a future match that hadn't even been announced yet. That's the power of great storytelling. You don't need to spell it out. You just need to make people feel it. And Raw ended on that image. 2 men. 1 championship. and the promise of something extraordinary on the horizon. Now, here's what I want to say about why this moment matters beyond just the segment itself. Wrestling, at its best, is about connection. It's about the relationship between the performer and the audience. And what this entire Masked Man angle proved over 3 months of incredible, patient, creative storytelling is that connection doesn't require a name. It doesn't require a face. It requires authenticity. It requires stakes. It requires you to make the audience genuinely care. And they did. You did. Whether you were watching from your couch, watching from the arena, watching highlight clips online, you were invested. You had theories. You had feelings. And when the mask came off, those feelings paid off in one of the most satisfying ways wrestling can deliver. That's what this business is capable of when it fires on all cylinders. Now I want to know what you think. Did you see the reveal coming? Were you one of the fans who figured it out early, or did it completely blindside you? Drop your reaction in the comments right now. I am reading every single one of them, and the best theories and reactions might just end up in a future video. If this breakdown fired you up, hit that like button not for the algorithm, but because it genuinely helps Wrestling Impact bring you more of this kind of content. We are here every week breaking down the moments that matter, the stories that move you, and the matches that remind you why wrestling grabbed your heart in the first place. And if you're new here, welcome. You picked a very good day to show up. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and come back Monday because we are going to break down where this story goes next. Because that championship is out there. That confrontation is coming. And trust me, you do not want to miss what happens when a man who spent months in the shadows finally steps fully into the light. Wrestling Impact. We see what others miss. And we never, ever look away.